Hello, my friends. It's Linda Esposito from Be Clear with Bronchiectasis. And today we are talking about how much we should hydrate. To hydrate, yes or no? Well, I think we all know the answer is yes, that we do need to hydrate. But the question is how much and how often? And there are different schools of thought. It's very common to hear a respiratory therapist say, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. That it's important to make sure that we're drinking and that we've got a lot of, we're not dehydrated, and how else to say it, but bringing moisture into the lungs. But there is another school of thought that says overhydrating is not a good idea because it can cause reflux. What we're most likely to reflux is liquid. And what is liquid? Well, certainly water and any type of drink, but also fruits, vegetables, soups, smoothies. These can all be considered liquid. And I would say the grandmother of this idea is Gwen Hewitt. I've talked about her in other videos. I always mention her to my clients when we're having this particular discussion. Jokingly say her name should have been Gertrude instead of Gwen, because she really did believe that a lot was connected to reflux. That reflux is a major driver of bronchiectasis. There's not a lot of research, but she was head of infectious disease at National Jewish Health, I think, for 15 years. She was there. And she saw a lot of patients with bronchiectasis and saw the relationship. So her recommendation over the years was not to drink more than, I believe, 6 ounces of liquid an hour. And I know people who, when we used to go to, before COVID, we'd be like 35 people in a small room meeting for our New York City support group meeting, and some of them actually had timers on their phones to remind them to drink. So they were only drinking 6 ounces, I guess, once an hour. But that just seems weird, right? The whole thing just didn't seem right. And although I respect her so much. And Dr. McShane actually said something similar. So Dr. P.J. McShane was at University of Texas at Tyler and now is at the National Institutes of Health, NIH. And her thing was, don't get dehydrated, but don't overhydrate either. And she says the issue isn't so much with hydration, it's a faulty mechanism. And so all the water in the world is not going to change that mechanism. So what do I do? And that's what I like to do. I like to share what I do. I like to listen to my clients. I learned so much from them, from other sources, NTM Info and Research Connect. It's a message board. The Mayo also has a message board, support groups, just all of it. What I do is I have I actually should have brought it in here, but I didn't. I forgot it. But it's like a big glass jar that I usually have when I'm speaking throughout the day. So we live in a 900 square foot apartment. I just kind of go back and forth from living room to bedroom. And I have this jar where I try to fill it up twice a day. It's about 32 ounces. And I just take sips. So I'm trying not to gulp. Sure. Do I take a little gulp more now and then? Yes. But most of the time, I'm just trying to sip it. So I'm not being mindful to only sip so much an hour per se, but I'm not gulping it, because if you take in a lot of liquid at once, what could happen then is that it's more likely to reflux. Dr. Hewitt also would tell people that it's not just about taking the precautions regarding the bed, raising the head of the bed, not eating several hours before lying down, but it's also throughout the day, being careful not to bend at the waist, unless obviously sometimes it's necessary, but being mindful of that. And she actually felt that when it came to gardening, that the issue was as much about bending, that gardeners are bending all the time, as it was the bacteria in the soil. And to just reinforce that, when I had a test, so there are two major tests that are done to test for reflux. One is a 24-hour pH impedance test. That's what I had. And the other one is a Bravo test. And I believe I talk about them in other videos. But I would say the 24-hour pH impedance test is pretty much the gold standard. But what it showed was at night I had 0. And I'm like, really? That's hard to believe. I had 0 episodes, but all my episodes were during the day. I had about 30. And again, believe it or not, that's considered normal. I think up to 50, 51 is considered in normal range. And why did I have these episodes during the day? Well, because I'm making the bed. I'm making the bed, loading the dishwasher, doing exercise, yoga, whatever it is, vacuuming. You're bending and you're changing that pressure between your stomach cavity, your abdominal cavity, and your thoracic cavity, and you're more apt to reflux. So much to think about, right? Okay, but what can we do about it? One thing that Dr. Hewitt recommends is, like, say you're going to play golf. That's a perfect storm for reflux. Think about it. You're drinking water, you're bending at the waist, you're putting the ball in the tee, you're swinging through. Reflux, reflux, reflux. What she suggests doing is eating a carbohydrate. So some pretzels, a half a bagel, piece of bread. A carbohydrate is what's the only thing is that's going to absorb that liquid in your stomach. So it acts like a sponge. So it absorbs the liquid in your stomach, and you're less likely to reflux. I also have been using alginates. I've spoken about them in other videos. I really don't prefer necessarily one over the other. I think there's good things to say about all of them. But there's one from Gaviscon Advanced. There's Reflux Gourmet. There's Reflux Wrap. There's some in pill form. So there are a lot of different alginate options. And it creates like a little bit of a foam barrier on the top of your stomach, so you're less likely to reflux. It's not something to take if you're feeling heartburn to prevent it, because it really is, or to treat it rather. It's really more of a prevention. So this is what the discussion is regarding water. It's a discussion to have with your doctor just to see if he or she has an opinion, because that would factor in too. But remember, you are in the driver's seat. It's up to you to decide how you want to live your life, what you want to do now, because you know what? With a chronic disease, there's always an opportunity later on to make changes. Maybe something ends up just being too much. It's not for you. Or maybe you're ready maybe to up your game and put another procedure in place. Okay. Signing off. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please like this video and be well. Take care. Bye-bye.